Mario says, get to work. So that's what we're going to do here at the Voice of College Football for the next hour with a wholesome one, talking Miami football with all of you. We hope that you were able to join us yesterday for what was an outstanding conversation with a wholesome one. If you have not, check it out and lock it in for the next hour here at the Voice of College Football. Wholesome one, how you doing?
I'm doing well, man. It's a great day today. It's also the very first day. It was signed official yesterday while we were live. Yes, while we were live, it was made official. He was in Miami to sign the paperwork yesterday, but today he stood in front in the Carol Sulphur and stood on stage just maybe 2 hours ago and spoke to the Hurricanes faithful. Uh, it's somewhat record breaking. It was the most people ever at a presser. Just saying, you know, even though it was the first year of the carousel, first time having it in the carousel for more space. But most people to ever attend intro for a head coach, most alum to ever be there, current players, former players, that kind of stuff. So it's a lot of noise, a lot of excitement surrounding this decision. And for someone like me who has been one of the pillars and really holding hard for this, some of the things he said spoke hard to me, man. It spoke to my heart, and I'm truly happy for him and his growth and where he can go and where this Cristobal era now starting here, December 6th, yesterday, and moving forward. We're excited about the era here at Miami.
He emphasized family, he emphasized work, he emphasized dedication, execution. What hit home with you?
He said something about the people. As a communications guy, communications grad, my biggest thing has always been the people and bringing them together. And you can say those things, but you truly felt him coming out with that, man. He for the most part, man, he spoke about how the people, and everyone in the community, former players, current players, whether you're on staff, whether you're not on staff, anyone who wears this logo is going to help work together to hold everyone here accountable and to make sure that the University of Miami competes for championships. It's just that simple. And it really hit home for me, man, because so many people try to say that the fan base had nothing to do with this and the people in the media had nothing to do with it. No, we worked our asses off to make sure this happened too, whether it be the continuous research, whether it be the continuous like bringing together people to understand that we do need to have a change, we do need to have growth, we do need to invest, being able to do the research for these people and make videos and make articles where you explain how far behind Miami has been, how least and less Miami is paying their coaches, and in order to compete with some of the best. I mean, we were on par with teams like Texas Tech, Kansas, and uh, Wyoming. That's how low level we were with facilities and buy-in from the local community. And for a school. And when you put that out there, then you get somebody like a Herb Street on a national stage to be able to say something like that because he's not going to do the research for us. But you continuously to hammer home with something like that, and it hurt because so many people truly felt like they had nothing to do with this, but a lot of us played a big part in communicating with the powers that be, and they were the ones that officially put pen to paper and paid the people to make these changes. But if we weren't putting it on them, if our fans weren't not showing up to games, because we're not going to support that crap. We're going to support greatness. We're going to support, of course, you're going to have friends and family that show up no matter what. But you turn on the Virginia game and then you turn on the Michigan State game. The Michigan State game had 45,000 people in it. The Virginia game had 11,000 people show up. On national TV, on ESPN on a Thursday night, we had 11,000 people in the stadium. That's how you executed your voice by saying, we will not support this style of product because that's what football is. It is entertainment. Okay. And if you continually put out there a bad product, then you're going to get that back. And you get what you put into things. So again, that it just really resonated with me. And of course, the work and the hard effort and all that kind of stuff, and him talking about the passion of when you see that logo, you want to think toughness. You want to think hard work and grit and determination and highly preparated and respected, revered, somewhat feared by opponents, a team that you don't want to play. those kind of things. And Mark, when you feel that energy through the screen, that's the other thing. You felt that he's not just doing this. He's going to try his hardest to truly execute that. And not just try, he's proven and shown that he can do it. We've had people in the past that had great pressures, and Al Golden with the infamous quote of someone asked, "Why is Miami a good job?" And he simply looks at him and goes, "Are you kidding me?" And the crowd goes crazy. Everybody starts clapping and stuff like that. It was a legit question, like why was the Miami job attractive? Well, today our coach answered why the Miami job is attractive, and it's not just about the talent. It's not just about him being home and playing for a school that he went to and he bled and cried for. Um, it's about the people in this community who can help him turn it into something great, and how he's a small piece that wants to build an empire to help everyone in the community, whether you work at the school, you alumni of the school, you go to grad school here, whatever, how everyone can work together to help him bring the U up to where it is supposed to be. That kind of stuff is it's impactful because it takes all of us. It takes all of us. And I'm just happy to hear a coach that understands those values, leans into those values, and more importantly, is going to truly execute those values for this school.
Hopefully, many of you got a chance to listen to Mario's words from the news conference. I got through almost the entire presentation, and it was very impactful.
Mm-hmm.
He, again, talked about hard work, that it starts there, dedication to the mission, the program, doing the right things on the field, off the field, executing, being known for toughness, execution, discipline, and getting it right. I think that was one of the last statements he made. We got to get this right. Somewhat woven in there, I thought it was somewhat interesting that he talked about looking out into the audience, and he started out by pointing out a number of offensive linemen, all of whom I know in regards to know their names and know their
Yep.
careers. And
Brian
talked
McKinney,
about
Joaquin
basically,
Gonzalez, Brian
yeah,
McKinney, yeah. And those are guys that he played with, the other one he helped coach get to Miami, and the other two, Brian McKinney and Brett Romberg, he helped them even get scholarships, and get into school and things of that nature here because he was a grad assistant when they were here in the late 90s and early 2000s.
and he used those guys as examples of, okay, this is what they were when they arrived on campus, and then
Mm-hmm.
we worked and we made them completely different players.
I mean, did you listen to some of the weights that he said?
Yeah.
Joaquin Gonzalez, an all-conference Big East tackle, was 225 pounds. And Brett Romberg was 220 when he first got to Miami. All that kind of stuff. So it was cool to hear some of those things.
I also found it kind of interesting that here's a guy of 45 years old, I'm guessing. I don't know. I've
51.
never looked it up. 51. Okay.
He was born in
51 years old.
1970. 51.
51-year-old guy. So he took the Oregon job only 4 years ago. So he had already had a head coaching job, obviously, prior to that, but took the Oregon job, first major job at 46, 47 years old, and taking over for Willie Taggart. And so you would have thought, and I'm sure that there was a lot of growth and development before that, of course, to make him get to the place where he could take a major job. But he made a comment that he listed off a bunch of people at Oregon and said that they were the greatest mentors and had the biggest hand in his development as a coach in person. So I found that that he's recognizing that he underwent a lot of growth himself just in the last 4 years there.
And that stuff is so important, Mark, because another thing that he spoke about, I've watched it twice now. One of the other things he spoke about was the fact that now that he's finally he has this job, it isn't time to take the foot off the pedal. It's time to put it even harder. And the reason why he wants to be surrounded by friends and family is because they're going to hold him even more accountable than anyone else could. Anyone else that it could just be, oh, I know him through coaching. No, these are the people I went to school with. These are the people who've known me since I left Columbus High School as a wet behind the ears 18-year-old. You know, these are the people who have helped me grow into a man, who helped me get my undergrad and my master's at the University of Miami. I left, went played Canadian ball, came back, and got my grad assistant degree under Butch Davis. Like this is for an 8-year period. I was at the University of Miami, and it created a whole bunch of the foundation as the man that he is today. And a lot of that stuff is important in the growth. But he also showed great love and respect to Alabama, his time at Alabama, his time at Oregon, like you were just alluding to, and the growth that he had working and living and coaching at places like that. That stuff is important, man. It's important. He got you fired up though. I mean, I'm trying to drive and I'm punching the dang wheel. I'm screaming. I'm jumping up and down, in the car because when you've wanted something as much as a lot of us have, as far as just taking this program to the next step, and you hire somebody who gets it, Mark. He feels your pain. He talked about the fact that he's working at Oregon, but always kept an eye on Miami. It was thoroughly disappointed in the outcome of what he had to watch from across the country. So he's just as pissed off as everybody else, in the U family, as we like to call it, as to the product that we've seen, the lack of respect for who and what they are. And he threw a couple shots in there as far as talking about you don't tweet about stuff. You don't need to be mainly recruiting over social media, and you don't need pizzazz and bells and whistles. You need hard work, and you need determination, you need grit, and you need respect. And when you have a program built on those things, then you could take it to a whole different level. But when it's built on just the flashy things and it's built on social media interaction through recruiting and not truly building relationships with the local high school coaches, he gave a big shout out to the local high school coaches and what they do. Because, Mark, for someone like you who's been covering the game for 30 years or so, there's always been a stigma about Florida coaches not being good and that they just have the best athletes and they tell them, hey, yeah, go out there and play man or go out there and run fast. Well, over the last 5 to 10 years, we've worked on doing that, in building a different level of coaching in the state of Florida. And it's come out on a different side. But we're starting to put quarterbacks out there. We're starting to put starting free safeties and middle linebackers and centers, thinking positions that can go out and contribute year one at the highest level. And that comes from what they've been taught at the high school level.
Well, folks in the chat are definitely pumped up and excited, and most of them caught the news conference. And so big, here we are with big, a next step of assembling a coaching staff. And of course, he's now going to set his sights on that while retaining a recruiting class and trying to add to it that most of which is going to be signed here in the next week. I keep thinking it's 2 weeks away. It's actually 1 week
it's next Wednesday, yeah.
From Wednesday. So it's only 8 days away from the early signing date. Understand that there is still opportunity for the February traditional signing date, but what has happened is that's been flipped on its head, and this early signing date has become a 85 to 90% signing
it is
date.
It's the new signing day. It's not early or late. It is the new one. It's the only one that technically exists anymore. Based on how of course the February one is, but you got to win that first one. And he's done an amazing job with being able to start already building those relationships. And Mark, you keep using the term respect. This guy took a very long time, of course, to make things official. But think about the way some of these other coaches handled leaving schools. and speaking about their previous institution that they worked for. And think about what Mario was saying when he spoke about the previous school. And he wanted to make sure he trusted and respected everyone's process. He wanted to see these players through. Of course, he couldn't coach the bowl game, but I feel like if he could, if it made sense to do it that way, he would have done it that way. But he wanted to make sure he got to meet the entire team and let them know, yes, these rumors are true. I'm going to take the gig. Look them in the eyes, having personal meetings with all of them before having the big team meeting, where he sat and he talked about to each player who showed up and let them know how much they meant to him and how he just has to go home. Mom's sick, mom's calling, I'm going home to Miami, and I want to look you in the eye and tell you that. That's a man who's built on great principles, and he showed that. And it's showed the relationship that he's had with these players coming into recruiting, where now he's leaving a school and he's not saying, hey, I don't want to take from you all. I recruited you here to Oregon. These position coaches love you. You stay at Oregon. Now, if you hit the portal and you come on your own, that's fine, but I'm not recruiting you to Miami. I want you to do things the right way and finish through here at Oregon. Okay, and then you also look at the fact that a lot of these players in high school right now, it was just like that. Mark, like that. A complete Miami shot to the top of a lot of players, big time players, both this class and next class, to be taken serious now because Mario Cristobal put pen to paper and is coming here. And we're about to get into some of the people that I think he's going to bring with him and that he's going to have a good relationship with. But it's going to be a great one. It's going to be a great one.
Got a super chat coming in here from Alex. Alex, we appreciate you being here. What's up, y'all? Mario had me ready to run through a wall. I will not say that. A wall. Also, Wholesome T2 kind of cryptically tweeted out that he wants to get here ASAP.
Mm-hmm. T2 is Terrence Lewis. I think you probably know that by now, Mark, but I'm just clarifying for everybody.
Yes, definitely. I should have explained that. Yep.
Yeah, he's the inside linebacker recruit that had all of these off the field issues. This is the kind of coach that you would love to have, a player who's presumed to have some disciplinary issues, be able to come in and learn from those kind of things. And to have a real support system around him to where you don't throw a local recruit to the wayside and he has to go to Maryland to be accepted and to be brought into their program. He could stay home. We have a support system. We have sports psychology. It's not just about going out there and hitting people in the mouth and making tackles. He talked about getting diplomas, which means degrees. Okay, he talked about being able to help them mentally. He spoke about mental health and the stress and pressure of being a hometown hero, playing for your local hometown school and not living up to expectation, what that can do to a young man's psyche. And we have to support them through that and continue to help them develop mentally, physically, spiritually, with respect to multiple religions. But he wants to help them grow. That kind of stuff is important. That stuff is important. You got to be able to have that. And I'm not just saying for Terrence Lewis. I'm not just saying for anyone else who has the presumed thought of having these off the field issues and they can't get things done psychologically. Okay, you have to have a program to where when these young men, their families trust you to allow them in, that you will give them the same nurture and encouragement and growth that they would expect from a father, that they would expect from an uncle, to help them take that next step. And not just patting them on the back and celebrating any little thing that they do, but making sure that they see things through to the finish line, all the way through. Yeah, you want to leave early? Okay, we're going to put you in a 3-year program. I promised your mother you're going to get a degree. You're going to do it. You're going to do it. We're not allowing you to think that it's okay to leave early or think it's okay to not be academically eligible, for you to like just get C's in courses. None of that is allowed here in this program. And I'm not kicking you out. I'm going to let you stay in. I know you may not be there right now, but I'm willing to put everything I have, me and my staff, to get you there. And that stuff is important. And that's why I've always supported Mario Cristobal, not to step on anyone else, not to step on Lane Kiffin, not to step on Tom Herman, not to step on Urban Meyer, all these other people that people are talking about. When you think about what Miami needs, Mario Cristobal has the it factor on and off the football field for our young men.
Derek Green, appreciate the super chat contribution. It's great to be a Miami Hurricane. NBA 20. Very nice.
Same year as me. Let's
Congratulations.
go.
Shout out
I
Texas
like
Southern BA 08. How are you not fired up to run through a brick wall for coach? Don't be a fan later. Hashtag don't be a fan later.
Facts. We all are, man. We're excited about it. And, we do want to run through a wall for him. And, of course, Mark has some tough questions for your boy, the H1H. We'll get into some of the eerie things. It's not going to be all bells and whistles. We allowed that for yesterday. We were happy and just allowing the excitement of Mario Cristobal coming here. But, yes, it is exciting to hear that press conference. And it's exciting to hear what he plans to do. And, Mark, one of the biggest things that stood out to me was the sports psychological part of it that he's bringing from Oregon. He's bringing that staff down to Miami to help him with that. That means a lot to me because these young men are under a lot of pressure. You're out there recruiting those big time 4 and 5 star guys. You need them to mentally be there. And when you come in and it doesn't work out easily at first, it can be tough. It can be.
And a few other aspects to that is that some of that help may not necessarily be needed for some of those athletes today. They might be fine. They may be in a good place and always have been, but
Right.
you never know. A month from now, a year from now, something happens in their life. They see something differently and suddenly they need it. Number two, it's not always a tragedy. It's not always extremely to that extent, but sometimes it's just guidance in a certain area of life. It's just guidance through a certain situation, through a certain relationship situation. It's not always to that degree where it's but everybody needs support in their lives. Yeah. Everybody does. So that's extremely important. I'm going to go a bit in a different direction, but it connects to something that you just stated. I don't know if you saw, there was somebody who tweeted both of us maybe here in the last hour about, and the statement that this individual made that I responded to was that Mario hasn't won anything, is what was in quotes. So from doing this every day for as long as I've been doing it, I've come to understand that a lot of people out there believe that the only thing that anybody can win in college football that means anything is a national championship. They'll say Kirby Smart's not won anything. Well, clarify your statement. This is what you're talking about. You want a national championship and you don't consider anything else to be worth anything. And that's fine if that's your vantage point, but understand if you're taking that vantage point, Nick Saban, Dabo Swinney, Jimbo Fisher, there are 3 men in the country right now coaching college football who have won a national championship. So understand that there's only 3.
And one of them went 8-4 this year.
Yeah. And one of them went 8-4. Exactly. And the other went 9-3. So understand that there's only 3 of those guys currently coaching right now. So then, because that's not my perspective, when I think of winning, first of all, I think that division championships are meaningful. Conference championships are meaningful. Winning major bowl games, meaningful. Finishing in the top 10, finishing ranked. All those things are meaningful to varying degrees. And we won't go down this path, but you can have an argument that a program has more control over those things, especially a conference championship, than they do a national championship. They have to be invited to go play for a national championship. You have complete control over whether you win your division and win your conference. So I responded to this person by saying, you were saying Mario Cristobal's never won anything. 3 division championships, 2 conference championships, a Rose Bowl. in a very, very short. It's not like he's been there for 15 years and that's what he's done. No, he's been there for 4 years. 18, 19, 20, 21. Yes, 4 seasons. That's what he's done in a very short period of time. So then there was a response of, well, this, and that. And I made it a little bit clearer, the next response, to basically say, you cannot name 10 coaches in this country that have accomplished as much as Mario Cristobal, that have won 3 division championships, 2 conference championships, a Rose Bowl, that level. I scanned the country quickly, and I'm pretty good at this usually, and added up the trophies and the championships. And there's about 5 to 10 guys that are in that range of accomplishing what he did, and that was only 4 seasons at Oregon. So he has won
in 4 years, Mark. He's 32 and 12 in 4 seasons.
Yep.
I mean, it's like the guy in there just put he's 62 and 60 overall. Well, he started the FIU program. Okay, so I get that overall you do look at that, but and I understand it. It's something that I'm willing to deal with and fight with forever, because I as a Mario guy, I'm gonna have to deal with it. I was one of the main people Bama doing it. So I've had great practice in this conversation with people, and they overemphasize. I mean, he lose one game, and they're like, this guy stinks, and the Utah blowouts were pretty bad. I'm with you. A lot of us felt like they weren't acceptable as far as how it looked, but I'm not going to sit here and create 35-13. Excuse me, I was right. I was corrected by Darren McField. 35-13. He did lose those 2 to Utah. So, hey, man, people can make whatever they want about those things, and I don't think that you necessarily should ignore them, but you should have a good conversation about it. Again, I believe when you speak as vehemently about one person as I have, as how many times I've said this over and over, it goes over their heart. Mark, I'm not, this, but I'm speaking to the people. I get it. He's not perfect. I know he's not a perfect hire. I get that. I've accepted that some of these things he does, aren't really acceptable. He's gonna have some of those ugly situations. I get it. But if you take what he's done at Oregon compared to what we've had to go through at Miami over a 4-year stretch compared to what we've had to go through for 15 years, there's no way in the world you can't tell me you wouldn't take his production at Oregon, at Miami. I get it. It's just that simple, man. I think people don't want to accept it. And again, there's nothing I can say. There's going to be someone that's always going to have a flip on it. That's the part about being in media, man. Everybody's going to have something to say. And that's all good. It is what it is.
I'll say that by far the most accomplished coach that this program has hired in the last 20 plus years is obviously Mark Richt. He's a guy that finished in the top 10 in 10 of 15 years at Georgia, brink of a national championship game, all those things. I could go on and on. Ran a top 10 program at Georgia. He was roughly 10 years older, something in that range. And I think now that we've seen what's happened to him, unfortunately, since he's left Miami, I think there were a lot of underlying circumstances there that that showed that he wasn't in a place where he could do his very best job. So we're talking about a coach who's in his prime with Cristobal versus a guy that was near the end of the line in Mark Richt. And even then, you get to see a glimpse of what was possible. All right. Alex here is asking about candidates for the coordinator spots.
That's a great segment into exactly what we were going to talk about today. So I appreciate you, Alex Perez. I think there's a lot of good candidates, and we have spoken about the simple fact that Coach Cristobal is going to be very dependent on his coordinators because he's a CEO type of coach, because he's going to be The only place you can see him being very hands-on is offensive line, defensive line, kind of. But he's going to be someone that just has that overseer look on everything, and 10,000-foot look, but also make you feel as if he's in your back pocket and in your corner the entire time. He's going to be right there for you. So the number one name a lot of people are saying, I'm personally kind of iffy on this one, is Joe Brady. That's number one. Number two, I believe should be Kendall Briles out of Arkansas. I think it would be a great position for him to come from there, where they're embracing the offensive approach to a certain extent. They had a nice little jump out there. Um, the mixture, it would be similar because his head coach there, Coach Pittman, is a great offensive line coach, great recruiter on that front. So there'll be a lot of similarities as far as that. And I think he would be a really nice fit here where he can blend the run importance that he learned at Arkansas with the pass-heavy approach that we would love here at Miami, opening things up. I also think that Graham Harrell, USC's former offensive coordinator, now he doesn't have a job. He was let go. So you don't have to worry about salary and things of that nature. And Frank Ponce, App State guy from Miami, used to be on Coach Cristobal's staff when he was at FIU. They have a previous connection there. He coached at Coral Gables Senior High School, where is the University of Miami? Coral Gables. So he has a lot of local connections there. Then you have the fan favorite and the family favorite of Ken Dorsey, someone who has spent his time building offenses from the QB position out. He has yet to call any plays. I will accept that. He does not call any plays. He was just promoted to QB and passing game coordinator this season for the Buffalo Bills. So he's had that step up in his responsibility. But you do talk back 5 years ago with what he did with Cam Newton, being his QB coach for 3 seasons, and then he had the big explosion as the MVP and Super Bowl attending year. And you also know what he's done with Josh Allen, a young man out of Wyoming who was kind of erratic and had some really weird throwing motion, and he's kind of built him from the ground up as far as how to fix his feet and how everything works all the way through and how he keeps everything together. And he's not throwing all over the place because he's just had such a great rocket arm that he could just make all the throws based on the talent. And Coach Dorsey has worked his behind off to really get him groomed up in the as far as the technical way of doing things. So yeah, he is number 5 on my list, but I think he deserves a great combination and a great conversation and an interview. I think at absolute worst, he deserves an interview to see what he can bring to the table here at Miami. Now, here's where I would go as far as a connection. I think Frank Ponce deserves to be a part of this program. I would love that. I would love him as a co-OC where they work together with someone else, because he has a really dynamic way of the run game that I love. I love the way he brings that kind of stretch run, but it's also out of the spread. It's not out of double tight with H-backs and tight ends. He's able to incorporate the run game with a whole bunch of eye candy, and you can hand it to the H-jet, you can throw it to the over route, or you can hand it off to the back. And it's more of an RPO approach, but it's out of the pistol or shotgun with running the ball. If I could do a match made in heaven, I think it would be either Brady and Ponce, where Brady is the passing game coordinator and Frank Ponce is the running game coordinator, and they work together calling the offense. I think that would be perfect, and I think it could check off all of the list for me. If it is Coach Dorsey also connected with Frank Ponce, I think that would work together well too. But if we're just going to go with one name, I think that's where you do the Briles or the Graham Harrell, because I don't know if they would technically be on for doing the co-stuff, because they can do both things and they're proven names to be able to do both things. But the other coaches, I would love to see them do a co-thing where they could work together. Why? You look at Joe Brady, there's conversation of whether he called plays or not at LSU during that season. Either way, it was a combination approach with him and another person. Then he goes to the NFL, he gets the offensive coordinator gig where he was calling plays on its own, and things didn't work out. So I don't really have a dog and night fight. I'm just letting you all know from what I've known in the research, he didn't. But then there's also conversations of he did help call plays at LSU. So I just kind of leave it at that. And he broke records nonetheless. So, if he could come and do that here at Miami, it would be really good. And then, like I said, with Ken Dorsey, Coach Dorsey, he has yet to call plays too. So I think him working together with a Frank Pounce in his running game would be very, 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 very nice.
It's one of those situations with Brady where you can take the evidence of what the offense became under him and how prolific and all of that, but then it's hard to get a gauge because it was such a short time period where he came from the New Orleans Saints. I don't know in what capacity he was there. Passing game coordinator, do you know?
Where?
At with the Saints, Brady?
Brady was let's look it up. I think he was a passing game coordinator or wide
Yeah.
receivers coach too. It was something very minuscule, but it
So
blew up at LSU. So
yeah. So obviously he's with the Saints, and if Sean Payton's hiring him and employing him, you got to think that that's a great endorsement. Then yeah, he goes to LSU. And my point is, you didn't really get to see him work with other quarterbacks, other sets of receivers. Those three receivers just were crazy good. And obviously Joe Burrow became the number one selection in the draft. So it's one of those things where you're trying to weigh out how much of that was talent on the field versus what did he do to the LSU offense to change it?
Yeah, so according to the research, he was just an offensive assistant for the Saints. It isn't giving a specific name. And then when it came to the he wasn't even the quarterbacks coach with the LSU. He was wide receiver and passing game coordinator. You get what, like, I'm trying to be very professional about this, but this fan base has taken his name and ran with it. And I'm like, if you do any research, it's kind of varying degrees as to what his true impact on that LSU season. And again, I'm not trying to disrespect him by any means. He's done an amazing job as to some of his stops, excluding the Panthers. It was very bad. But the NFL is a different gig. It's on a whole different level of preparation and execution and level of talent. But if you want to do some research, I think it would be some cause to pause on the whole Joe Brady hype train, in my opinion. I could be wrong, though. Could be wrong, man. Could be wrong.
Alex, thanks for picking me up. Mac Brown, of course, took Texas to 2 national championship games. Won in 05, lost in 09, of course.
I got to do the defensive side, too. I did the offense.
Let's hit the defense.
I'm going to start out with my number one, and I think this should be number one. Will Muschamp. William Muschamp. It would be such a home run hire if Miami was able to go and grab William Muschamp. What he's doing on that defensive side of the ball. Yes, I get that he is a 3-4 base, and a lot of people, Mark, because of what Mark D'Alfredo did to us on the 3-4 side, where it was more of a pure zone, off the ball, being preventive in your approach. A lot of people get butthurt with the 3-4. They don't understand some of your favorite teams that you like to watch on championship Saturday, they run a 3-4. Georgia, 3-4. Alabama, 3-4. Ohio State, multiple. You know what I mean? There are multiple, but they are a 3-4 and nickel base in their approach. So the best of you talk about Oklahoma, they're a 3-3 stack. They're not a 3-4. They're a 3-3 stack. So this 3 down front thing, it allows you to have more people off the ball so that they can see what is happening in front of them. Meaning that schematically we're able to react to things more if we're on our feet as opposed to handling the dirt and being able to take a step and then react. Okay, when I get that locally we run a 4-3 locally in South Florida. Everyone runs a 4-3, except for Miami Northwestern. They run a 3-3 stack, and they're also one of the historic programs. But when it comes to that scheme, it's a lot easier to react to things again when you're on your feet and you're reading the offense and you're being able, because in a 3-4, everyone thinks that, oh, everyone's cramped up on the line of scrimmage and now you only have 4 DBs back there for people to attack. That's not how it works. You're gonna have an edge player and you're gonna have an outside linebacker in that 3-4 scheme, especially if you're talking about the Will Muschamp scheme. What I mean, should I do it, Mark? Should I explain to him?
Love
Should we
this.
explain to him what I mean? All right. I got to get something to get this off of here. All right. Let's explain what the 3-4 scheme is. Got to pull out the whiteboard on the mark. So,
Love it.
the traditional 3-4 has this look, right? And linebacker here. It looks more like a 50 front, right? Can you see? Do I need to
Yep.
go? Can you see that? Okay. That's what a traditional 3-4 looks like. You got 2 4-eye techniques, and then you got 2 linebackers outside of their offensive tackles as edge rushers, right?
Yep.
What a lot of people don't understand here is that is an old school approach. What you see nowadays is more of your traditional look of a 4-3. Okay, where that end now is in a 3 technique. Okay, where he's able to attack the outside shoulder of that guard as opposed to sit there and hold down the B gap. Okay, and then you have an edge rush linebacker that's standing over there who's going to rush the passer as a true defensive end approach. And this backer over here is going to be off the ball reading the play. Okay. So it's not just a 50 front look where it's a big run stop look. It's about being able to see everything in front of you and be able to get there. So that's where Will Muschamp and guys like Kirby Smart and guys like Coach Saban, then you have to understand football is very multiple nowadays. So whether you're a 3-4 or 4-3 or 4-2-5 base defense, you're going to play a whole bunch of spread teams anyway. So you're going to be inside of your 4-2-5, inside of your dime, inside of your nickel defenses at a higher percentage than normally anyway. So doesn't really matter what our base is, and continue. Get out your mind the Vince Wilfork nose guard. That doesn't happen anymore. The Terrence Cody and the Haluti Nata nose guards. That's not how things are played nowadays. Those guys will be just as tall, but they'll be 6'6", 301, 6'6", 310. Okay. And with what we have on this front right now, you have a guy like a Jordan Miller coming back, who's your 325-pound guy who can hold down the one gap, while you have someone like a Leonard Taylor and a Harrison Hunt. And this way, we'd be able to have both of those guys on the field at the same time. Mark, then you could get like a guy like a Jafari Harvey, where he could stand up and rush the passer. Sam Brooks can go over to outside linebacker and do what made him the 4-star outside linebacker at Miami Northwestern, where he stands up in a 2-point stance and rushes the passer. Okay, a Chance Williams, guys like that. So I think going to the 3-4 wouldn't be the worst thing for Miami. There's a chance that it could work. But we would also have to kind of revamp the roster a little bit. So I do understand people's iffiness with that. So I'll go over to my next defensive coordinator. Jimmy Lake, recently let go over at Washington. There, we wouldn't have to do that. He runs a 4-2-5. We have recruited and coached to the 4-2-5 for the last 3.5, 4 seasons. So he would be able to come and basically kind of perfect the 4-2-5 on a different level. So I can see that being a very easy transition. Also, as much as I love Will Muschamp, if we were to go with like the pure spread approach, I would say go after Jimmy Lake, because I think you would want to have that 4-2-5 where he teaches the defense from the back end forward, because Jimmy Lake is a defensive backs guy first. You would want that as to be the focus of your team, because if we're going to be airing it out and passing and want to score points on the offensive side of the ball, you're going to need a defense that can compel that. So number one, it creates great competition in practice. And number two, when you're in a shootout, you will be able to go toe to toe because you have that kind of mindset on defense. So that's where we are with that one. And then another one, Todd Orlando, also doesn't have a job. Let go out of USC. He's a very well respected coach in the coaching realm, as far as he's one of those, you know, guru guys. He's not the best on the football field. You can call a spade a spade. He's had some really rough times as the chief defensive coordinator at Texas and at USC. So that's why he comes in at third for me, based on his history. But 1A and 1B for me would be Will Muschamp or Jimmy Lake for defensive coordinators.
Okay. Super chat time. MDB, appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for that. Whoever it is, the spread has to stay. Talking offense, the whole ground and pound style will only go so far.
I like that. That's a valid point, man. We have a really nice quarterback, one of the best quarterbacks in the country, according to Coach Cristobal. He said there is no better quarterback in the country. I think having him, also having Jay Garcia, and also having the young brother, Ja'Cory Brown, committed also, who's a top 10 quarterback right now. He starts at free safety and quarterback for his team. He's like that. And he won a playoff game. He threw the game tying touchdown and then turned around and got the game sealing interception and then drove down and got the game winning touchdown in a playoff game to take his team to state. So anybody like that, I'll take on his team. But I agree. I agree that we do need to have that approach. We do need to lean into our best player. And the best player on this team is Tyler Van Dyke, which is why going with the Joe Brady and going with the Kendall Browse would be really good for a guy like that. And I understand where people are coming from with that.
So I told you yesterday, Wholesome One, that I had one question / criticism of Mario, and it's a fairly obvious one because otherwise I don't have close, intimate knowledge of his career at Oregon. I watch all of college football. I watch Oregon play 4 or 5 times a year. I know what his record is. I know what he's done, what he's accomplished. But in terms of inner workings there, I'm not covering the team day by day, but at the same time, I know what's going on. And I can find no fault in what he accomplished, especially considering what he took over. So he took over a decent program. He took over a program that had a 4-8 season the 2 years before he was there. So they were 4-8 2 years prior to his first season. They were 7-6 under Willie Taggart, his final season in which he coached that Las Vegas bowl game. Then he took over 9-4 and then through his success. Okay. So I have no, in regards to what was being accomplished at Oregon and how he raised the winning percentage on the field, I don't know how anyone can have an issue with that. Secondly, he raised the level of recruiting at Oregon to a level that had never been reached. So people might assume that when Chip Kelly was there that they recruited out of their minds, and they didn't. Chip Kelly was pretty amazing in a lot of respects. 33-3 in the Pac-12. All BCS bowl games, came within a short chip shot field goal of winning a national championship. They dominated. But his recruiting classes, because I analyzed his recruiting classes when he took the UCLA job, and they were only recruiting in the top 15 to 20 in the nation. So what Mario Cristobal has done, 3 consecutive recruiting classes at Oregon, had not been done before that. And I'm talking about the best class in the Pac-12 and a top 8 to 10 class in the country those 3 years. So in terms of recruiting and producing results on the field that were much better than when he arrived, I have no criticism whatsoever. I don't know that anyone can. So the only glaring issue from this past season is the obvious. In addition to struggling, but winning against a lot of marginal teams, Cal, Oregon State. You could run down the list. Most of it has to do with these 2 Utah games. So, as we talked about after the first Utah game, 38-7, name the coach. We can talk about embarrassing losses. They all have them at some point. No coach has a perfect record. Nick Saban lost the national championship game by 4 touchdowns. And as you mentioned, lost to Louisiana Monroe his first year at Alabama. So every coach, it's competition. There are going to be those days. But to take that same team that you would think would be highly motivated, number one, that it's a conference championship game. Number two, that they're lining up against a team that annihilated them just 2 or 3 weeks earlier. And then the same thing happens. The level of concern there that there weren't adjustments made or that the motivation wasn't communicated to the players and wasn't that there wasn't that level of fire and preparation put together to make for a better effort.
Yeah. You know, Mark, I don't like to get too personal in here, but I could only imagine what it would be like preparing for a season, latter half of the season in a playoff game, and having to make an emergency fly back home because your mom was very, very sick. That's the only, I didn't really want to go there, but I could just only imagine what it would do to your psyche. And I'm not here to create excuses. I'm not trying to use what has happened with him personally as an excuse. I understand they lined up, they played ball against a solid Utah team and got shellacked back to back. It's just there's no way around it. Um, and he'll have to wear that. You know, it'll take him some time probably to ever really get over those 2 back-to-back losses because you don't want to ever go out like that. And supposedly there was a rumor that him and Kayvon Thibodeau got into it at halftime, and Kayvon Thibodeau called him out and said, "You're distracted and you're not focused." And he retaliated and told him that he's getting beat by an offensive tackle who's going to be a car salesman in a couple of weeks. So there's that. So he does have some clapback to him, but yeah, it's a fair assessment. It's a fair conversation to have. There's other things you could say about him. There is the leaning into his seniors a little too much. There's a 5-star freshman out of Arizona who sat on that bench while this 7th-year senior dude continued to hold the team back, and Coach Cristobal never went to the next guy. There's a conversation there. And I understand that. There's also the conversation of basically being the cardiac ducks. And the whole time you're watching the game, even for me as a Canes fan, rooting for Mario and rooting for his success, it was tough to watch those games week to week because you knew he out-recruited the entire Pac-12. He had the best teams. And yes, they are injury riddled. And yes, they're playing with second and third team guys. But you stacked that cupboard and you were there and you weren't embarrassing a very mediocre conference. I get that. And like I said, those are all critical things that you can bring up. He lost to a Stanford team. He lost to an above average Arizona State team. He lost to a 1-win Oregon State team last year. He was blessed to be in the Pac-12 championship game last year when they technically weren't supposed to be in it. But they were riddled with, COVID-19, so they were able to go. But even with all those things being said, I believe there are a lot of things on his positive side that outweighs that. But again, we can say it all the time. Every coach has their black eyes or their warts or their pimples, whatever you want to call them. Every coach has one. And you have to be able to accept that and hope that you can surround them with even better so that you don't get that. So, it is what it is, man. It's a couple bad losses, and he has some really nice wins. And again, one thing about him, This was the first time he lost to a team back to back like that. Usually he loses a game, he goes on a long win streak after that. They learn from it. In his bowl game preparation, in his time at Oregon, he's lost one bowl game, right? One in 4 seasons. So he's 3-1 in bowl games. That kind of stuff we would dream of being to have at Miami, man. I think we're 1-10 in bowl games in the last 11. So, there's a lot. I see we got some super chats, so I'll shut up and let you get to it.
Yeah, so this super chat here coming in from Alex, appreciate that so much, Alex, is concerning the run game coordinator versus pass game coordinator. Joe Brady is a pass game coordinator, Frank Pons as running game coordinator.
Yep, that was something, we spoke about in my breakdown, in my list of coordinators. Yep.
So, yeah, we do have another super chat. Let's hit this. Got Wendell. Wendell, thank you so much for that. Appreciate it. Cristobal just needs to rebuild the wall around South Florida recruits. Do that and just run the ball and play defense. He'll win us another title.
I would expect Wendell to be kind of up there in age. That is a very old school approach. And I get that. The game is different. I don't necessarily know if there's such thing as building a wall with the way that, everyone is able to recruit all over. The gig is up when it comes to Miami having this great talent, and South Florida has some of the best talent in all of the country. So, there's people like the University of North Dakota. There's people like University of Minnesota, people like Iowa, people like, Iowa State, North Dakota State, teams like South Dakota State, teams like, Wyoming. They all go into that state and they want to get this speed and they want to be able to go and grab these athletic players. So I understand what you think as far as being able to build a wall. Then you also have a team moving up into a Power 5 program at UCF who is going to help take that. You used to have the big three where the top echelon was almost evenly distributed between the big three, but then those 3 and 2 stars that you help to build your program, your speedsters, your middle linebacker who's like Buster Douglas, middle linebacker who's 5'8.5", but can fly and have great effort, things like that. They would be the latter half of your top 25 scholarships, and they would help to build your program through that and the walk-on system and give great help, a great effort and things of that nature. But it kind of doesn't work like that because guess what? Buster Douglas can go to UCF and start as a freshman. Why go up to Tallahassee and sit on the bench now? Or he can go over to, Sam Houston State and play and be their all-time leading tackle and things of that nature. So I do understand your viewpoint, but I believe if you have a good program, then the best of the best is going to want to come. And they're going to want to come and play for your team and things of that nature. But you're still going to have Georgia, you're still going to have Bama for a little bit, come in and grab some. But now we finally have a fighter's chance where we can swing with them. Some will lose, some will win. And, we'll go from there. We'll go from there.
All right. Slow folk, hashtag CWO. Do we keep the turnover chain?
Mark, it pains me to say this. Yes, absolutely. Turnover chain wasn't a problem for us. Again, it got to the point, like I said, Mark, what was the one thing I said to you for the last couple of years? It's only a big deal when it's the focus of the teleprompt. Like now everyone has a turnover problem. So they just show, oh, he has a turnover chain back to the game. But like 2018, it was like, oh, the turnover chain. And you look at the score, and we're down by 20. We had that happen a couple times this year. Cam Kitchens gets a turnover that wasn't a turnover, and you look at the score, we were down like 31-0. Everyone's going crazy about a chain, but it's going to be about the focus. If we were to keep the chain, if we were to have it around, I promise you it would not be the main focus of the defense. doing your job at a high level, and then being rewarded with the chain is cool. That can be it. But as far as having this be the focus of all your recruiting trips, have this be the focus of your program. The goal that we want to have in the air is championship rings. Okay, that's what rings on the finger and the trophy in the air. That's what we want. Now, having the chain as a byproduct, cool, no problem. But don't make it the focus of your advertisements and things of that nature. And it's a very polarizing thing. We were the second program to do it. Alabama did it first with the turnover belt that debuted in 2015. We debuted in our turnover chain in 2017. The first person to wear it was Malik Young against Bethune-Cookman right before halftime and threw a Hail Mary, caught an interception in the end zone, and he put on a chain, and they caught it with the camera, and they're like, what is that? Then they ended up doing a story on it. 2017 takes off. Notre Dame game happens. We break the streak. Now we have Affleck giving chains to Deion Sanders. You got Coach Saban open telling him, I know exactly what you need. He opens a box and hands him an Affleck chain. We got basketball teams. We got baseball teams who do chains because Miami came up with that. So again, I can understand why people have this frustration towards it. I can understand why people think that it makes you look like you're immature and you're not focused. Under the right leadership, all that stuff will be okay. You don't have to throw it away and try to turn into Army, and we do things right. We get a line and we do exactly what Coach says. Sir, yes, sir. You don't have to do that kind of stuff. It's still Miami. It's still South Florida. We're still dealing with 18 to 23-year-olds. Okay. And if a chain and some rings, there's a part of the process here, and there's a part of what we do and what we bring to the table. It's not that big of a deal, man.
Sean Norris. Oh, we've got a Noel spy here. I really enjoy y'all's coverage of the enemy. Do you guys feel you now have the best head coach in the state?
Until we prove it. I think that's a good question, but it's worth debating until we prove it. And guess what? We won't be able to prove it until year 2 under Coach Cristobal in 2023, when we'll be able to play both teams and truly be able to crown a champion of the state. That used to be such a great thing. I never got a chance to experience that. I was born in 96. I started really following and playing ball like high school level in 2010. So Miami hadn't got a chance to play for a state championship. The only team that's able to play for a state championship every year is Tallahassee. They end the year with Florida, and at the middle of the year they play Miami. So I don't necessarily think that we have to go out here and prove that. Billy Napier up at Florida, one hell of a coach. Guess where he comes from? The Nick Saban staff. Guess what he loves to do? Recruit. Guess what his thing is? Offense. So we're going to have to play that eventually. You look at Mike Norvell. We lost to him this year. So, I mean, is he a big 9, 10 win, 11 win coach that's going to bring you a championship? I don't know. But that program has a lot to rebuild, and he's a culture guy, in my opinion. And he's worked his behind off to rebuild that culture at Tallahassee. And it was good enough to be in every game this year. And yes, they had some embarrassing losses, but they also beat us. So there's a chance you got to give him his respect, and he's building a culture. So at the end of the day, we have a chance to prove it once we get on the football field. Based on face value, you can have a very shallow answer of, yes, we have the best coach, but guess what? We get a chance to prove it next season once we get on the football field.
MDB 3000, appreciate you being back here. The one possible flip I want is Devin Jackson. He could be a John Vilma type or even a stout defensive end with the right defensive coordinator.
I'll be honest with you. I think I might lose my voucher here. I don't know who that guy is. It got to a point where I could say for me, I can't speak for everybody, I stopped following recruiting because no one was giving a good goddamn about Miami. So I don't know who that young man is. I will look up for him, and I promise you I know who he is next time.
All right. Yeah, we It is very rare that I have to make this statement, but I think it's worth noting that everyone should understand that the knowledge base here with the Wholesome One seems to be completely unlimited, but that's an unreasonable expectation of anyone, including myself. So just always understand that there's only so much time, there's only so many resources, and we can only know so much. We can't know everything. I think back to the time when somebody asked me maybe about 6 months ago to break down the Marshall defense. It's like I don't I don't know the Marshall defense. I haven't watched them play. I can't know everybody. Arsenio Johnson, could a Mark Whipple be an option? He just stepped down at Pitt.
I think he could. I think that wouldn't be a bad one. He did a really nice job with the development of their Heisman Trophy candidate quarterback. Um, he torched this defense and up and down the field for the last couple of years and things of that nature. So I could definitely see him being in the conversation, uh, especially with TBD at quarterback. I think that could be it is, in my opinion, such a great one of the biggest pillars is that if you turn on the film and you watch the last 6 games of Miami Hurricane film, we have a marquee quarterback who I think will be in conversation for an O'Brien and the Heisman next year. Not saying that he'll be there, not saying he'll win it or anything like that, but he'll be in conversation. The way he plays, the grit, the arm strength, and the way he went after teams these last 6 weeks to not only help us get the bowl games, but almost went undefeated as a starter. That stuff is important halfway through the season. So I do think that Mark Whipple can be in conversation, but in all honesty, I believe Miami could do a little better with some of the names that I listed off earlier.
The one thing we both wanted to hit on before we conclude here is that, of course, the Canes will spend New Year's Eve in El Paso, Texas, where they played the Washington State Cougars. What, about 7 years ago? I think that was after the 2014 season.
Yeah, we played them in 2015.
2015.
We had interim head coach
ago.
Larry Scott when we threw the halfbacks pass in the snow against Wazoo, which was kind of weird.
So now we've got a Washington State team at 6-6, Miami 7-5, Sun Bowl game, and it's been announced who will take on the coaching responsibilities.
Yeah, it was very similar to what we all thought. I mean, if you use logic, usually the assistant head coach takes over for the head coach if anything were to happen. That's exactly what happened. We're going to have Coach Jess Simpson, who is the defensive line coach and is the assistant head coach. He's going to take over as the head man for the bowl game. The right-hand man and the passing game coordinator of former offensive coordinator Rhett Lashley, who took the SMU job, who's gone doing that thing over there. Rob Likens is going to call the offense. He hasn't called offense for a couple seasons since his time over at Arizona State in the Pac-12. He was also the offensive coordinator that beat Mario. So there's that. Back when he was at ASU and they played Oregon on a big Thursday night game and they upset the number 8 team in the country. So I'm excited to see what comes with that. And he's a pass-happy guy, so I expect a lot of that to happen. He's a wide receiver coach, and we have a marquee QB. So I expect us to kind of just be spread and go after. Mix the run in there a little bit, but we're probably going to be a pass-first team in that game. On the defensive side of the ball, for the first time in a couple seasons, Coach T-Rob, our defensive backs coach, safeties coach to be more specific, he is going to call the defense on that side of the ball. Which makes a lot of sense because, I mean, Coach Diaz is gone, Coach Packey is gone, so they had to step to Coach T-Rob to go ahead and coach the defense. So it'll be a little different. It'll be a little coach-letting. Some of those people won't be there. Of course, you're missing your former head coach, your OC, and your DC. Thank God we're not playing too great of a team. Wazoo is definitely going to give us a game for their quality program. They play hard-nosed, very well-coached kind of team. So we'll see. We'll see with that. And that game isn't for a couple weeks, so I know we'll have a chance to do breakdowns and stuff of that nature. I thought the game was sooner, so I was going to have my film session be tomorrow, but it makes no sense because I think the game is on the 31st or something like that.
Yeah.
December 30th or 31st. So we got plenty of time to break them down. Right now, over the next couple of weeks, it'll be so many interviews. And, of course, Mark, I'll keep you plugged in. If something happens, I'll be able to hop on and probably do breaking news, OCDC hires, and
Awesome.
we'll be able to do a show next week on the recruits I expect to sign and some of the people that we've been able to get with names like Shamar Stewart, who wants to sign next Wednesday, five-star defensive end, who is going to make a visit this upcoming weekend. Because you do know, now that we have a new coach, all those same recruits can all re-official visit. And he gets a chance to, of course, he built a relationship with them at Oregon. He gets to re-recruit him as the head coach of Miami. So I think there's some people he's going to be able to flip by next Wednesday. And I also think there's some people that he's going to be able to get them to wait until February and give him an opportunity, him and his new staff, an opportunity to recruit them wearing the orange and the green.
John Kane, thank you so much for the super chat contribution. Appreciate that so much, John. Thanks for being here. Thank everyone for being here with over 500 on the line. Thank you so much for that. We understand that most of you have missed most of our conversation with a wholesome one. So what you do is you just wait for the video to post, and we covered it top to bottom. Anything that you could imagine, Mario's news conference, what was stated, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator selections by the wholesome one, and much more than that. So just wait for the video to post. It'll take about 15 or 20 minutes, and then you can dive in from the beginning. All right,
yeah, man. We even had a whiteboard experience. The whiteboard came out. Yeah,
got the 3-4 breakdown on the whiteboard. And so yeah, check it out there. So we appreciate everybody being here. We'll be back with Wholesome One next Tuesday, and like he just stated, hopefully we can reel him back in if we've got any breaking news. And we've got another Miami Live coming up Wednesday at 7 Eastern with Cam Underwood. Wholesome One,
the GOAT. Appreciate it, man. Thank you all so much. Every week, it's always a blessing to be here. To the lovers and the haters, I still love you, man. I thank you all so very much. Mark, I always thank you for the opportunity to come here and speak. We did back-to-back 24 hours ago. We were on here talking about the breaking news of him being there, and now 24 hours later, not only was it made official, we got to see him stand in the podium in the Carol Sofa and speak from his heart about the school that he loves. So thank you all so much. Hopefully y'all hit that like button. And again, the comment section down below is always where you could drop the questions that you would like us to talk about in the next show, man. So we appreciate it. And as always, go Canes.